All right, guys. Well, joining us on the line right now is the one and only, well, one of two living legends in the world of professional wrestling, but the one that we're going to recognize, one and only Mr. Larry Jabisco. Larry, are you with us?
Yes, I am here. How you guys doing out there?
Doing great. We're doing great.
Good.
We really appreciate you coming back on the show again. I think this is your fourth appearance with us, so
oh, God, I'm going to start sending you a bill.
You might have to. But we're going to do the best we can to help promote the upcoming event happening this weekend in Orlando, Florida, where apparently a lot of wrestling goes on these days in Orlando. So how are you looking forward to this weekend's festivities with I Believe?
Well, I always look forward to it. It's an interesting group. Some young friends of mine have a school in conjunction with it, and they've got some students, and of course they got some names. I'm going to be there managing one of the guys, Chase and Rance, who will soon be seen on the Tool Academy show coming up in a couple of weeks. And one of my dreaded nemesis from over the years, Scott Hall, is also going to be there. So it's going to be an interesting night. They've got some other pretty good young talent popping up. So there's one wild woman named Zoe who's very impressive too.
She looks different too. I saw a picture of her.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make her mad.
No.
That's Terrelda?
Zoe? I don't believe that's Terrelda, is it? That wasn't.
No.
Oh, okay.
Zoe's Zoe.
Yep, that is Jamie DeNancy, I believe is.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great to have you on the show again, and this coming weekend sounds like it's going to be an interesting one for you. And what is your involvement in the company? Are you involved in anything backstage, or are you just somebody who comes out and does the managing, or what involvement do you have?
I just manage Chasen, and once in a while they might ask me a question, so I may be kind of maybe a consultant, if you will. And as well with the school, I go down once in a while and help out once in a while with some, special stuff. I'm just I'm more behind the scenes. And, God, I tell you, I keep telling myself, along with most other guys in my stage of the game, I want to, take these boots and just bronze them and put them on the shelf. But every time you say that, something pops up that you just can't turn down or want to do. So you never know in this business.
Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in?
Yeah, well, half of you always wants to go back in, but the other half of you knows better. But then sometimes, you give in. It's a crazy...
Look at Ric Flair. He's retired 5 times.
Yeah, well, Flair keeps retiring because he keeps owing the IRS $1 million, so he can't retire.
That's a good point. I mean, the best example is Terry Funk. I think he holds the record for most retirement matches.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's another... I'm not even going to be stupid enough to say that because something always pulls you back in. I mean, even mentioning Flair, I really don't want to put the boots on again, but Flair is an interesting character. One guy who we've both been around for almost 40 years and never wrestled each other ever. So he might be the one guy I would be excited about getting in the ring with, just simply because it was the match that never was,
That's interesting.
But, most people don't know that, but we never wrestled, so.
Wow.
That would be interesting.
Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit about a company you used to work for, which is TNA, which also runs out of Orlando, and there's big changes happening there, and I know you were a big proponent of when Turner was involved in wrestling, and you have said in the past that unless Turner or somebody like Turner gets back in the game, they probably won't see anything like what we had 10 years ago, or 15 years ago now, probably. What is your honest opinion of Eric Bischoff getting back involved in wrestling with TNA and Hulk Hogan as well?
Well, in terms of, Hulk and Eric, for TNA, it would be very good. I think my comment about, it would take a Ted Turner to get wrestling hot again. And it's not so much the guy, it's the network.
Right.
You really, to make wrestling big, you need a network behind you. And TNA has done, come a long way with the network. And I know, Dixie, who very nice person, a very sharp businesswoman, has pulled off a very nice relationship with Spike Television, with that network. So now they have that component. They've got the Spike TV working with them. They've got, Hogan, who's the biggest, most, worldwide recognized name, out there with them. And they got Bischoff, who's a sharp, hustling kind of business guy, and he's back there with them. I've been having some talks, here and there, and they're in the middle of doing a lot of changes. So there's going to be a lot of changes happening, probably over the next month or two. And I think it's going to be great for TNA. I think TNA has that chance we talked about, because they've got kind of ingredients where they have a network, and they also have some minds, and they have some names and some people with influence, and you combine them all. Just give them a couple more months, and I think one of the cool things is, even in terms of Spike, the Monday nights, the Monday night wars start again. It would make wrestling a lot hotter than it is right now. It's all stale. And the TNA has all the potential, the ingredients coming to a head, so could work out real good. It could be a good year for the wrestling business.
It could, and it started out with a bang, and I think the people were ready for it to be hot. I think some of that momentum has been lost because there wasn't an immediate Monday Night War, but we're hearing possibly March the 1st might be the kickoff of that. Whether that sticks or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think this really could be something that could, even if it's just the current wrestling fans, re-energize us to actually really want to watch, because I haven't really been that interested in watching up until fairly recently.
Well, yeah, you got a lot of people watching it that, want it to evolve and get hot, and you got millions of people that will jump right back in. It's just, unfortunately, the WWE has been the only option, and kind of dumb, and TNA, has been growing. They've been, 5, 6, 7 years, and it's been a process, and they do a lot of good stuff, and they make a mistake, and they do a lot of good stuff, and then, so it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. But I think they've taken some big steps, and been working hard for years, and, everybody's behind them. Like I said, the people there are great to work with, and a couple little more changes. This could be very interesting, So I'm excited for them, and I'm excited for the business and the fans, and I think a couple more months, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion of Eric Bischoff? Because everybody and their brothers had, they're putting their boots to him since WCW went under, thinking that there would be no opportunity for him to come back. And now that he's kind of back in the landscape again, you're starting to notice a lot of the same guys who were putting the boots to him about 5 years ago are now being pretty complimentary to him. So. Well,
wrestling's weird. I mean, normally when someone puts the boots to somebody, it's because they won't hire them. And they usually don't get hired because they're not worth anything anymore. And then when someone is the boss, then everybody, says how great they are, hoping they get hired. And, man, me and Eric have kind of a different relationship than most guys. He started back in the AWA as basically just kind of a guy trying to hustle, products and stuff, or marketing, and wound up, getting thrown into the broadcast then on TV due to some unforeseen circumstances with the infamous Larry Nelson. And, I was one of the guys that kind of, helped him out and took care of him when he first started. And, so we get along real good. And, I know the guy real good. And he's a sharp guy. I mean, he's a hustler kind of guy that would be perfect in there, when you want to get something off the ground. And, when you put together a team like Eric, who's a heck of a hustler and's got connections and won't take no for an answer kind of sales guy. You got guys like Hogan with the name, and some guys like me and other guys with years of, experience in the psychological department of it, and someone like Dixie, who's a very sharp businesswoman with the Spike Network. You really started to put together a team that could do some good stuff.
Well, I have to ask you now, did you watch either Monday Night Raw or Monday Night Impact on January 4th, and what did you think of both shows?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I watched the TNA show. I really don't watch the WWE. It's really kind of silly to me. But not only is that, I mean, it never changes. I mean, if you watch WWE 6 months from now, it's going to be exactly the same thing. You're going to have Shawn Michaels and Triple H and John Cena and the Midget and what the hell the other kid's name? Orton. And they're all going to be doing skits and staring at each other. It's going to be exactly the same thing. Same guy, same thing. So, yeah, to me, I never watch it, I watched the TNA, and I thought that, so far so good.
It's interesting that you make that observation because that was a complaint that people had about WCW in, 99, 2000.
What was that?
The same old thing.
Just same people over and over again.
Well, it probably was by then because with 97, 98 it got hot, but then by the year 2000 you got the same things, and it kind of fizzled away by then. The company was kind of out of control. Bischoff was removed, and this Vince Russo guy was put in, and he didn't have a clue, so it was just kind of like the same thing. But to me, and to wrestling, I mean, after a while, I mean, even when I click through, and see the WWE, I'll see, like Shawn Michaels and Triple H or something, and I don't remember. I'll say, well, how many times did these guys wrestle each other? It must be 100 times already. I mean, it's the same, and people get tired of seeing the same, thing over and over and over. But TNA, you're going to start seeing some changes. I know there's a lot of rumors about a lot of guys thinking they're going to get fired. Well, they should be fired. They've been there for 7 years. How many times can you see them, for Pete's sake?
Well, you mentioned Larry Nelson, and you kind of piqued my interest because I've been watching when I can the
old classics.
The old classics, yeah, I loved watching that stuff, and I have another WWE thing to ask you about on their classics channel as well. But what was it that happened with Larry Nelson? What was the infamous story? Because I wasn't even aware there was one.
God, let me try to put this. Larry was a hell of a guy. I mean, he was like one of the boys. Mm-hmm. But I think Larry would drink a little too much and accumulated a number of DUIs.
Uh-oh.
And so then I think he got one DUI too many with, no license and all this. And I think Larry was going to go maybe into the local Minnesota clink for a while.
Uh-oh.
So one day, we all go there for TV to do promos and stuff, and there was no Larry Nelson. He disappeared, left his car, left his clothes, left his apartment. He just vanished. Uh-oh. And we're all waiting around, nothing happened, so we threw Eric in. And I did the very first interview that Eric ever handled. He was so horrible, I cracked up in his face, trying to keep redoing it. But, he was just kind of thrown right into the fire there because old Larry just vanished off the face of the earth, which I would probably do, too, instead of going to jail. But that's what happened with that.
I saw him do an interview about 2 years ago or so he must be around again somewhere, but...
Well, he popped up, later. I mean, I got a call from some years ago. He wound up somewhere doing some radio shows or something.
Oh, okay. Good. Now,
he was a classic.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of classics, WWE's Classics on Demand, 24/7, whatever they're calling it this week, they just ran the Showdown at Shea, which featured you and Bruno, who I know you hung out with this weekend. Yep, they just ran it recently. Just the other week they had it on. Now, what is your opinion of WWE using their library like that, and how does it affect you when you go and do the fan fests and things?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same old term. I mean, publicity is publicity. The more publicity, the better. I mean, with the ESPN Classics showing, McMahon is showing some old stuff from, WCW and the Nitro Wars and me and Bruno. It just keeps me alive. And I mean, it's good. It's good for me. I mean, got the ESPN Classic, but between WCW, ESPN Classics, the 5-6 years I was, I'm mostly on with TNA. I'm really one of the few guys of my generation that have been on television straight for like 38 years. You know, and so it's good for me. You know, it's publicity. I get calls all the time. I just flew back last week. I did a movie out in Portland, Oregon. I did it so good. This director made me sound like the right. They sent me 2 more scripts. I'm doing another movie in March.
Now this is not a Hills Have Eyes incident, is it, or is this a?
No, this is a movie called Wicked Deeds.
Wicked Deeds. Interesting.
Oh, you know, I told you the story about the Hills Have Eyes.
Yep, you were supposed to be in the original, weren't you?
Yep, I was supposed to be in the original, and of course I didn't know who the hell Wes Craven was. This was his very first film, some low budget, no money, in the desert, script eating babies. So I turned it down. Like, oh God, what? You know, so I wound up the guy's name was Wes Craven. It was his first movie, The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, boy.
So now when someone asks me to make a movie, I say yes. You never know.
Now, speaking of stories, your book was full of tremendous stories, and we did an interview back, I think it was the week it came out with you. And how were you satisfied with how the book did, and you thinking about adding another one? Because at one point you were saying that you might have some more stories to add if there was interest in it.
Well, you know what? The book is still selling real good. I mean, you know, the publisher's real pleased with it. It's selling real good. I'm having a hard time getting copies of it because they were in all the stores over, you know, for the holidays, and now they're doing a reprint. And in fact, I just when I was out on the West Coast, I bumped into a couple of guys like Tommy Dreamer. Al Snow had to run out and order one, but Tommy Dreamer came up to me and he said, you know, he read the book and just, you know, I was really flattered how he put it over, how great it was. And the only comment I got from everybody is they just wanted to read more. You know, I mean, it was such a cool read. They wanted to read more. I might do another one. I mean, I could easily do another one. It's just time-consuming. And to make it good, I mean, I wrote that myself, word for word. So, I mean, to find the time now, it's hard. But you never know, you know.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say I read the book myself, and it was very good. And the part of the book I liked the most was the stories about how the feud between you and Bruno was worked out. I just thought all the behind-the-scenes stuff that went on during making that feud was very interesting.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, it was a wild time, you know, back then. There was no contracts. It was completely different. There was no cell phones, so the promoters are pretending they couldn't be found. You know, Vince Jr. is crying on my phone and telling me I'm trying to kill his father, and Bruno's telling me, you know, well, he's not going to do anything unless I do this. And holy shit, it was it was an amazing story, and so yeah, I mean, I can't do it justice unless you read it because it's, you know, it's pretty, but it was that, you know, one of a kind story back then because it was, you know, it was hard to get in the wrestling business back then. You know, they didn't want you, and to get a push was, you know, even more ridiculous. But, you know, it was just like destiny, I guess. I crawled through Bruno's hedges one day when I was a kid, and I guess it was meant to be. But it was a fascinating story about the good old days and how it used to be. And, of course, you know, then I got ended with the WCW days, and you could see how things changed to where people just expected a big contract and didn't want to do anything.
Exactly. And I think that's what people, you know, unfortunately associate with Bischoff and them. But I think, like I've told a million people over the past couple of months, if you look at WCW, it was the #1 blueprint on how to build a company, and also the #1 blueprint of how to destroy one as well. So I think that people need to remember that there was a building process before there was a destruction, and hope that, you know, look at Eric Bischoff a little bit differently going into TNA, because I think this could be a positive for wrestling.
Oh, yeah, and it wasn't all Bischoff's fault it crumbled. I mean, there was a couple of combination of things. I mean, he made a couple mistakes in one way, but then in the other way, too, the whole way the infrastructure of WCW was set up as a subsidiary of Turner was weird, you know, and plus the fact that, you know, when AOL deceived Turner Time Warner into buying him out, you know, they already knew they were going to cancel wrestling, and it was kind of let to go downhill because only a handful of people knew it was getting canceled, and they didn't want to put any more money into it, and they just, it was kind of a combination of a few things. But with the one big lesson is you can't let the inmates run the asylum, and but TNA's got a good handle on that too. That mistake's not going to happen again.
I wouldn't imagine so. Real quick story about your book, actually. I was up here in the office one day, and I heard my wife, it sounded like she was crying downstairs. So I got up, and I walked down the stairs to see what the heck was going on, and she's sitting at the kitchen table with your book reading the story about when Kerry Von Erich's foot popped off with all the beers.
Oh, God.
She was actually in tears crying, laughing so hard at that story.
Oh, my. You know what? That was the freakiest thing because it was such a well-kept secret that hardly anybody knew about that. And, not even the Beers. Not even, most of the guys. And it was just one of those classics. The Beers freaked out so bad he thought he pulled this guy's foot off that he went, and he threw it up in the air like a hot potato. And it was like time stood still, man. The audience, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody went like into a trance, just short-circuited. And then Kerry Von Erich, what could you do? He went underneath the ring, put his foot back on, and came back out like nothing happened.
I guess that's all you can do is just pretend that it didn't happen.
Well, in those days, the show had to go on. What that was one of the wildest things I ever saw in the ring.
Well, we're going to let you go in just a few moments, but I wanted to ask you a question. I have to close out with a couple of questions, and one you might have some personal feelings on, and that is, unfortunately, about a year ago, the incident involving Verne Gagne. And what's your opinion on what happened with Verne and his roommate?
Well, you know what? It's not an opinion because I know exactly what happened. The family. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened. They've even looked into lawsuits, and if I was allowed to, there'd be some people that beat the snot out of Verne Gagne. Poor guy. He even at this time a year ago, poor Verne can hardly walk. He's 83 years old. He has Alzheimer's. He has no idea where he is, and he's got his ankle fused, his back. He's got a pacemaker. He can't hardly walk. And what happened was there was some old guy, even older, like 90-something, who was walking on a walker, and the guy fell down by Verne's room. And Verne, kind of limped over, but nobody saw exactly what happened because by the time the nurse or whatever these people come around, the guy's laying there, and Verne are just standing outside looking at him. And some idiot said something on the internet, like for a joke, Verne Gagne, the wrestler, body slammed this guy. And then the rest of the story goes on to where this 98-year-old guy went off to the hospital because he fell on his walker and cracked his bone. And he was in the hospital for a month. They released him from the hospital, and then he went home and died, because of old age. Right. It had nothing to do with Verne Gagne. But it was, but all of a sudden they had pictures of Verne, drop kicking guys, putting them in the sleeper and killing. Verne can't even get out of a chair. It's really pathetic because they kicked him out of the old people home, the corporation, because they're all afraid of lawsuits. And it was hard for the family to get him, care, because he needs care. He can't even get up to go to the bathroom. He's really in bad shape. But it was really, one of the most stupidest media nonsense. People should get the snot kicked out of them for,
now,
ridiculous.
Was that internet media exclusively, or did any newspapers run with it, or?
Well, it started off on the internet, but then all of a sudden the news picked it up because, Verne was such a big name around Minnesota that it wound up in the newspapers, it wound up on the television news. So people in Florida showed me articles about it, and, it got picked up like nationwide in some papers.
Right.
And, the reality is Verne didn't do anything to the guy. He can't even walk.
And it just seems like it's pile-on effect after the Benoit thing, that anything a wrestler does, no matter what age or what position they are in the world at this time, they're going to jump on the story. I think they did that with Hogan. I think they're doing that with they did that with Vern.
Well, yeah, guys got to be careful nowadays. Publicity is great, but the media too is out for the media. If they can get ratings, if they can sell magazines. Hogan, I felt sorry for the guy. He went through hell the last couple of years, not only with his wife, but with his son in the car accident. And, the media's like burying the guy, and he's just like every other father trying to raise a kid. Really, you got to be careful. If you're in the public eye, you better be careful nowadays.
And the final question I have for you, and then I'll turn it over to my good friend Patrick here. You were a part of the revived AWA, which I've heard mixed things about the legality of running those shows, calling itself the AWA and things of that nature. What was your take on that, and is that still running, or is that officially done and buried?
Well, you know what? I think it's done and buried. I'm really not sure. I think maybe McMahon might have squashed something because he got the name or something. And I never pay attention to, like, if someone calls it the AWA, and I know it was this Dale Gagner and all that. But there are so many outfits out there, the PWI and the IPW and the ABW. It seems like there's a never-ending amount of indies throughout the country, But I never pay any mind to any names because there's no doubt in my mind that people come to the matches to see the stars or see the wrestlers. They don't freak out and go, "Oh my God, it's the AWA, let's go." They don't care. And they're running AWA shows in Florida. Well, the AWA in its heyday was nowhere near Florida.
Exactly, right.
So it's like,
it seemed like Minnesota and Las Vegas where was your biggest.
Well, it was around the Midwest, Minnesota, Chicago, all the way out to San Francisco, and Salt Lake City, Denver, Vegas. It was kind of like the Northwest.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what you call your organization. I don't think fans care. They care about whose name is on the card.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Now that bothered me a little bit back when the Benoit stuff was going on. They were having Dale Gagner, or however you pronounce his name, and I don't know him from a hole in the wall. He could be a hell of a nice guy, but they were having him on, and it seemed to me like they were not aware that he wasn't the guy who ran the AWA back then.
Well, yeah.
They were bringing him on as the expert,
Wow.
I know, yeah. Well, it's ridiculous.
All right, one last question. I did lie. I'm going to make this the last question. Your honest opinion, and this is kind of a stupid thing, but your honest opinion of, I'm not sure if you saw it, but Vince used a T-shirt on John Cena that was a blatant ripoff of the original AWA logo. Wanted your opinion if you ever saw it and what you thought of it when you first saw it.
Oh, God, you know what? I never saw it, and that's the first I heard of it.
It was it's the original AWA logo with the two guys wrestling, and instead he has his, like, hustle, loyalty, respect. So instead of saying AWA, it says HLR.
You know what? I didn't see it. Like I said, I don't pay attention or watch, the McMahon products. And if he did make a logo that looked like it was probably at the time he was releasing some AWA DVDs or something.
That's
who knows?
Exactly, that's probably it.
Well, you just mentioned the DVDs, and I've actually wanted to ask you myself, WWE, they're on a kick right now where they bring in guest hosts, and they're obviously always working on their DVD releases, and they always bring in old names to fill the roles to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. Have they ever approached you about either being on the DVDs or being a guest host for Raw?
No, I don't think the McMahons like me. I don't think Junior likes me, and it's probably to the point now where, I really can't figure out why. I could have gone back to the old Bruno days and the Bruno story where he's crying and telling me I'm killing his father. Dad's hiding in the turnpike or something. But who knows, But no, they never called me, and I really don't care.
So you're not expecting to get the induction into the Hall of Fame anytime soon?
Yeah, not unless they run out of dead guys. They'll put dead guys in before they put me in.
All right. Well, remember to check out Adventures in Larryland, available now on Amazon.com, as well as checking out Larry Zbyszko this weekend. And for those who are interested, check out Facebook. They have it updated pretty regularly with the card for this coming week for I Believe Wrestling, happening in Orlando, Florida. Larry, we can't thank you enough for coming on one more time. We really appreciate it. I told you 7 years ago, I think it was actually in February of '03, we did our first interview together, and it was your interview that was my second interview ever that gave me the confidence to keep doing this 7 years later. Now it's an LLC company, and I keep going, and I keep chugging along.
Well, proud of you. Good for you.
I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate you coming back on. We always love having you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I think TNA's got what it takes to make the business, hot again. So for everybody, so keep your fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mr. Jabisco, here on the Interactive Interview at WrestlingEpicenter.com. Thank you very much, Larry. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. All right, guys. That was Larry Jabisco here on the Interactive Interview at WrestlingEpicenter.com. I really enjoyed that. I always love having Larry on.
I was just saying this. I would love to have Larry Zbyszko as a drinking buddy, but he doesn't drink.
He doesn't drink?
No, he's just such a cool, laid-back guy.
No, he doesn't. And he said that. There was a videotape that I have that has actually, I bought it on a whim, and it's available in the store now. It was something that Sherry Martel had shot. I believe her niece might have shot it. Mm-hmm. And it was at they called it a roast, but really it was just a bunch of old wrestlers sitting around with a microphone with a bunch of marks in the crowd. And I guess I'm a mark because I bought it, so I'm not offended by that term, so I'll own it. And what they did was it was Terry Taylor, Jim Cornette, Larry Zbyszko, Sherry Martel, Road Warrior Hawk, the Rock and Roll Express, and Buddy Landel. And they were sitting around drinking beer and screwing around. And Mr. Hughes was there, but he didn't utter a word. And I don't think he's ever uttered a word, has he? Anyway.
Not to my knowledge.
They were all just sitting around telling goofy-ass stories. And Larry said after Road Warrior Hawk had a fart machine that he was making sounds every time somebody would try to speak and chased around Jim Cornette around the room, Larry Jabisco just grabbed the mic and said, I never did anything crazy. I never was chased by the mob and had to hide in the bathroom stall to pretend I wasn't there anymore. I never got into a fight where somebody poured rocks in my mouth. I never blew Roman candles out of a car towards the guy behind me. I never did this stuff. But I was here. I saw it happen. I sat in the corner. I watched it happen. And I have a series of stories to tell for the rest of my life about the crazy people that were around me. And I think that's kind of Larry's history. And I think to some degree that's my story as well, because while I never did the crazy shit, I can surely tell you everything crazy that people around me have done.
Interesting thing, though, it's like he was Eric Bischoff's first interview, and he was your second interview. It's like you could argue that, everything Larry touches turns to gold.
Ooh, I'm still not paying you, Patrick.
Well, but Larry's almost like the polar opposite in a lot of ways of the character he played for so long, because as a wrestler, he played one of the most arrogant, cocky individuals. Yet, you get him on this show, and he's just so nice,
Yeah. My favorite, can I give you my favorite Larry Jabisco story?
Of course.
Shoot.
Okay. And he told this, I believe it was in the first interview. It involves Sherry Martel, God rest her soul. So Sherry Martel walks into the room with Vern Gagne and Larry Zbyszko, auditioning, for lack of a better term, for a job. Vern apparently wasn't that keen on her, so they're starting to exchange words. And he's saying Larry liked her. And Sherry Martel shakes their hands, said thank you very much. Apparently they had seen her work. They were impressed, but Vern wasn't as impressed as Larry. So Sherry, over in the corner of the room, bends over to pick up her bags. And Larry says loudly, see, I told you she has what it takes. And she got the job. So apparently it was, see, girls, that's not a bad way to get a job.
Well, Larry, look at the girls in the WWE now.
And by the way, Larry, ended up dating Sherry Martel up until the point that he met what I believe to be his current wife. I never asked him because I don't feel it's any of my business, but Larry was the original, for lack of a better term, Triple H. The only difference is Larry didn't abuse that power. But he was the original Triple H in that he married the boss's daughter as well.
yeah, I mean, you could make a point that Larry, only really got the belt because there was honestly no better option left. I mean, I'm not knocking Larry with that. I'm just saying that who else in the AWA at that point really could have been a champion and continue to carry it to the high standard you need to have for a World Heavyweight Champion?
And it wasn't
that was true for Triple H for a while. I mean, in all fairness to Triple H, that was true to a point, but then it got to, 2005, 2006 rolled around. It's like, okay, it's time to wind this down. Oh, no, he's still there. Okay.
Yeah, that was the case with Larry in the AWA because at one time they had just this vast array of talent, and then when Vince's raids or acquisitions or whatever the term that Vince uses to describe it came around, Larry was the only one left because he had bad feelings with Larry previously, that is Vince. And, there was guys that were there that were talented. Snooker was back and forth between the companies and things. But I think the thinking was kind of what I've always said, and that is loyalty. They had to know that somebody was going to be there because at that time I think it was clear to most people that the AWA wasn't the company that had the solid roster that was going to be there week to week to week to week, because at that point we weren't doing contracts the way that we have them today. So they also
and that was the argument for Jarrett in TNA's earliest days, for him holding the title as long as he did.
And I agree with that entirely, because you don't want to put the belt on somebody who WWE is going to bring in and do a job on heat or velocity, just so them to get a tryout.
Right. I mean, let's all look at it. I mean, the protection of the World Heavyweight title is something that runs very deep in wrestling, so much so that, so much so it caused Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, I got words to talk about that, and I'm looking at the clock now, and I don't have a heck of a lot of time here, guys. I got probably about 10 minutes to talk, and then you guys are welcome to continue. But I wanted to offer my take on a couple of things. First of all, I have the Royal Rumble on DVD. I have not yet popped it in the machine, and that is, I recorded it on Sunday night. I've had it since Sunday night, and I just haven't had the chance to really watch it. I'm moving house. We bought a brand new. Yeah, we bought a brand new house. It's almost completed. Beautiful.
Congrats.
Place. It's amazing. I'm not bragging, but holy crap, I am amazed by this place. It's freaking gorgeous. So I want to get rid of this place and sell this place that I'm in now. But we've been kind of packing up, and with a newborn baby and everything, I just haven't had the chance to really watch anything that's not on the schedule. So I haven't caught the Rumble yet, but I did catch Raw. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd kind of like to jump right into it.
Sure.
Okay.
I actually wanted to talk about Raw myself, so.
Okay, I especially want to talk about the main event, because if I don't get to stay on the whole conversation, I do want to make sure I talk about the what was the main event of the show, which was the Bret Hart confrontation with Vince McMahon.
Yep.
Okay. Next week, we're going to have a special guest on the show, and I've announced this on one place, but not on the website yet. Next week, we are going to have a guest we've never had on this show before. Now, many people have negative opinions about this gentleman. That's fine. I mean, I myself have had negative opinions at some point. I think that's all cool. Anyway, he's the first person to say what I'm about to say. I'll credit him with saying it. And now I think it's only commonplace that I would scratch my head and wonder it. Isn't it just a little convenient that in 20 years that it took Bret Hart to build his career, the first time they decided to do a documentary about him and have a camera follow him around happens to be when something shady happens behind the scenes?
I know, it makes you wonder. It does make you wonder.
And now that you're seeing it kind of become a storyline, it makes you wonder a little bit about, was this the plan, and the Owen thing threw that off kilter, and the Bret getting kicked in the head got kicked it off kilter, and having the stroke kicked off kilter, but now we're finally going to get the story that was being built for years. It does possible?
Make you wonder. For years, all I said was, like, the only thing that kept me from thinking that it wasn't a work, or it kept me from, or the thing that made me think it was real is the fact that Bret never went back. And, well, now he's back, so no.
By the way, that person who we're having on next week is somebody that has been in the news a lot lately, and I think we're going to make some news as well. The Honky Tonk Man.
So,
for the first time ever, next week, because you know he's going to be in TNA, and
apparently, no, he's not, according to Bischoff.
And the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What are we going to ask him about this?
Well, of course I am, and I'll tell you what, he knows how to get his name in the news because he just says the crazy shit, and it works.
Have you seen that shit interview with, I believe it was him, New Jack, and somebody else? I don't remember.
The Iron Sheik.
Oh, shit.
I own it. I haven't seen it. Is it crazy?
So
I've just seen the trailer, and that's enough.
You got Southern Crazy, Black Crazy, and Extremely Crazy.
Isn't there partial nudity in that?
Yeah, they all dropped their pants at one point.
They all what?
They all apparently dropped their pants at one point.
Why?
To compare ass cracks.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like I said, Southern Crazy, Black Crazy, Extremely Crazy.
Hey, that works. Why not?
We got New Jack running around the room going, "Oh my God, Sheik's pulled his dick out. Sheik pulled his dick out."
So evidently we know what scares New Jack.
It sounds something that frightens him. Yes.
Yeah, but
all right.
Probably.
So anyway, just real quick, back to the story. Here's what bothered me about this, and it might have been done intentionally, but it might not have been. Was you had that show leading all into that moment. And Batista comes in kind of unexplained. I guess it's going to be like a henchman kind of deal. And that's immediately followed by the crowd chanting for Cena, something that, you would think would be a wonderful thing for WWE because he hasn't had that kind of fanfare before, at least not in recent years. So Cena's just getting cheered. Cena. They cut to black, show the logo, and apparently after the show goes off the air, Cena comes in and makes the save.
I think that's great. I think it shows a little bit, more spontaneity to it.
Really? But are they going to reference this that it actually happened next week on the show, or are they just going to pretend it never happened?
Apparently they are.
Yeah,
they are what?
SmackDown.
They're going to air it?
Yeah, apparently they're going to air the exclusive footage after SmackDown, on SmackDown sometime.
Who? Well, that's interesting.
And in all fairness to the fans chanting for Cena, that actually goes back to a couple weeks prior where Cena cut a promo on Vince saying that he's just basically a vampire that sucks the wrestlers dry and throws them away like shit, and how he sides with Bret, which, oh my God, John Cena actually stands for something. Yeah. Whoa!
Well, that's what I said. I said it to you. I said, that's all he's really been missing is that he's just kind of always been, I like what you like. And now he actually said something and expressing an opinion. And it's like, oh, well, I kind of agree with that opinion. He's cool. And that's what they're basically basing it off of. And look how simple it is. I'm not saying that he's going to go on to be the biggest babyface of all time, but you can't deny he got cheered.
Yep. Well, it's better than the corporate chill that he was prior to this.
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, he's had some good moments. I'll give him that. But at the end of the day, this is starting to take the shape of the same old copy and paste Vince McMahon feud, where, especially like if you look at it, it's almost like the battle of the billionaires in a way, where you have someone who physically can't get in the ring and fight Vince, but you do have. But he can find someone to stand up and be his surrogate, with, I guess, John Cena playing the role of Bobby Lashley this time, and Batista will be in the role of Umaga. I mean there's potential there. I understand why some people are enjoying this, but to me it just is coming off it's too much of what we've seen a million times before of Vince is an asshole, nobody likes him, he's evil, he runs everybody into the ground, yada, yada, yada. Somebody's going to stand up and be the rebel and fight back against the evil corporation.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's something like the Vince McMahon character is almost as bad as Triple H as far as being overexposed and overdone. But I think the fact that it's Bret Hart makes it a little bit more special.
Yeah,
and I do like the idea. What'd you say?
I said, yeah, it gives it legs.
Oh, yeah, and I do feel like if they do the bit where it's Cena and Batista representing Bret and Vince respectively, I think that allows us to see, it makes the Cena-Batista match mean more because I wouldn't give a shit about that match beforehand, and B, it gives us a chance to see spots like Bret put Vince in the sharpshooter and shit like that without having Bret wrestle, because that's a concern of mine, because I don't think Bret's going to be as good as he once was, and I don't want Bret to put himself in a position where he's at some kind of health risk.
It's not just a health risk, but it's also Lloyd's of London, and for those who don't know, one of the main reasons why, even though he obviously had the itch beyond itch to get back in the ring, why you never saw Rick Rude return after his neck injury is that he had Lloyd's of London. He got a contract with them. He got paid a shitload of money when his career ended in Japan in that match with Sting, and even though he was desperately getting the itch to get back in the ring, he never did. Some say that he was getting ready to make a comeback. You know, that's never been confirmed. But he never got back in the ring because of all the money he got paid by Lloyd's of London. If Bret gets back in the ring, the injury he suffered from Goldberg was then not a career-ending injury. Therefore, he's got to give the money back. Now, the question is Vince going to pay him more than he got paid by Lloyd's of London? Who knows? That's the question.
Bret being in Cena's corner is a way to get around that.
Yeah, but people won't be as satisfied with that. I think deep down Bret wants to get back in there. The question is, again, will Vince pay him more than he'll either get sued or has to give back to Lloyd's of London? And one final thing, guys, and then I'm going to let you guys go, and you guys can take it from there. Last question for you guys. I was watching SmackDown, and we were talking about Cena's character, and he shaved the chick, right?
Yeah.
On SmackDown a couple weeks ago, and I didn't share this last week, but I forgot, but I wanted to share it now. Cena's reasoning for shaving her head was that this way her brain would be a lot closer to the heavens above and all that crap and to the straight edge lifestyle and all that.
You mean Punk, right?
Yeah, Punk. What did I say, Cena?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I mean Punk. CM Punk. Sorry. He's got Cena on the brain.
Kill you for that.
What's that again?
For confusing John Cena with CM Punk, the ROH minions will kill you.
I'm not confusing them at all. I just stick of the tongue. Anyway, I feel like a jackass. It wouldn't have been such a big deal, that whole storyline about shaving the girl's head so her head was closer to the sky and, closer to the clear thoughts and all that, if the guy shaving her head wasn't long-haired. I mean...
See, he's already clean.
He's already clean, so he can have hair
again? And he's going to get his head shaved at WrestleMania, so...
He's going to get his head shaved at WrestleMania, you think?
Well, the rumor is that he's going to be wrestling Rey Mysterio in a hair versus mask situation, so there you go.
And then you're going to have Rey Mysterio looking like a G.I. Joe again.
A very tiny G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joes were inherently very tiny, weren't they?
The
according to the actual characters.
Were pretty small, but like the 60s, 70s, and a lot of the 90s models were actually pretty big.
They used to have the ones that were big, like the Barbie dolls, and then they had the pretty small ones that were like all based on like a spring. Like if you just kept turning their torso over and over and over again, their spring would eventually go bing, and they're going to come apart.
Yeah.
Those ones.
Which those were better, in my opinion.
Those are pretty cool, yeah. I like the big ones though. I had the G.I. Joe ones, and I also had the Street Fighter ones. So I used to do like big wars between the Street Fighter. And all that. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, guys,
look in my attic right now. I might go check on those right now, right after we get off the air.
Yeah, I've been going through a lot of my old stuff, and I find things like that, and it makes me smile to see them. Anyway, guys, I'll let you guys have a good evening. You guys are welcome to finish up here. I got a lot of things to talk about with TNA next week, and you guys will be glad to know that I like TNA's direction, but a lot of what people are saying about the lack of wrestling and all that, I agree with entirely, and I am hoping, against hope, that as we head into March the 1st, and what is supposed to be a live Impact, but apparently Spike TV's changed the schedule on their website, so hopefully that's just a that's just a deterrent rather than a change in the actual plans. Hopefully, with the Monday night show, we can recapture this candle, because I have not been as excited for wrestling as I was on January the 4th, and I can't lie to you, that excitement has dwindled since it's not been live. It's like, okay, yeah, let's all get ready to watch a show that was taped 13 days ago. And it doesn't quite have the same appeal. So if they go live,
all the shows leading into Against All Odds, they taped them in the same week because they were going on the UK tour. So we're in a situation right now where I think the last show before Against All Odds will be like a month old.
Exactly, and that's not good. That is not good. But hopefully with the March the 1st show, if that still stays the case, we can rekindle some of that energy, and I think ultimately that's what TNA has to build itself off of. It has to be the show that is anything can happen, whereas WWE, we know what's going to happen, and Myra Jabisco said it. We know what's going to happen. They're going to be staring at each other. So, yeah. All right, take it easy, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, later. All right, that was James Walsh, and Nick, you and I will be allowed to talk for the next 22 minutes. So what news and notes do we have to talk about this week?
Well, we actually do have quite a bit of news and notes. One kind of on the WWE level, the other on the independent wrestling level, and both are kind of interesting. Just starting with the WWE one, it's official that ECW will once again be no more, so they can stop.
Thank God.
Now, there is kind of an interesting situation where apparently the name will be Next, NXT. The idea being that the show will feature younger talent, which I thought they were doing that anyway, but I digress. But apparently, here's the thing. There's already an independent company named Next Wrestling. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the lawsuit. I'm willing to bet.
Vince will buy it. Vince, just buy the company and then do whatever you want with it.
So who knows? We might, but who knows? We might be heading back to London, and we have another World Wildlife Fund situation.
We could. It's interesting to see WWE in the, in the copyright battle, being the ones that screwed up, because normally they're the ones coming down on other people for using their names. But
apparently, in another ironic kick, there's a group in the UK, a tag team that calls themselves DX, and apparently the WWE is starting to sue them.
Okay.
So I'm just like, those two stories I found out today, so it's like, irony.
Yeah, that's weird. But whatever happens with the lawsuit, I do like that they're getting rid of the name ECW. It's kind of like what we talked about with TNA and the six-sided ring, where people said that they weren't going to give TNA a chance just because of the six-sided ring. It's like, all right, well, just get rid of the ring, and they don't have an excuse. With ECW, it's a beloved name of a beloved wrestling company being bastardized every week, because it's not the old ECW. Even if the show is good, and I thought about a year ago when they had the Hart Dynasty and Jack Swagger and Evan Bourne really shining, I thought it was a very good show. But a lot of people didn't give it a chance because it's like, well, it has the name ECW and it's not the same, and we don't like it because of that. So, all right, let's just get rid of the name ECW and start fresh.
Right, and I think the second, in my opinion, they decided, okay, this wasn't going to be an actual, attempt to revive ECW, they should have given up on using the name. I get that there was a history there, and there was a potential storyline of, the new blood and the ECW originals, but this is everything that ECW really flexed in a way. It's very slick.
Oh, we saw that in the first show.
Right. I mean, it's very slickly produced. It takes place in huge arenas. Basically people that are waiting for the SmackDown taping to start. It's, there's rarely, if ever, any real hardcore, especially now that Tommy Dreamer's gone. So it's like, why is this ECW?
Exactly, yeah. They just lost the last of the originals, and he was the last one there for a while. I think for like a year, he was the only ECW original. Right,
and I will give them credit. Wonderful and very classy way they got rid of it. Not that they got rid of the way they let Tommy Dreamer go, or his last night I thought was very, very wonderfully well done and very classy, and really nice to actually see that in the wrestling business where guys literally will break their backs. And, they never get to say goodbye, but yet, they've let Tommy say goodbye. And I'm glad to see that they've let him do that. I thought it was one of those happy feel-good moments. They actually don't kid in wrestling a whole lot.
Yeah, and Tommy deserved it. I mean, and not only just for his history with ECW, but, I mean, he's been with the WWE since 2002, and he's worked behind the scenes. He's, his on-screen role hasn't been that strong, but he's been, a big player behind the scenes in the WWE. So it's cool that he got that send-off.
Right. And I'm hoping that maybe that sets a precedent, continues the precedent that they used with Flair of, okay, when a guy's truly leaving, a guy that's, given so much to the company is truly leaving, why can't you, write them off in a nice way, and I'm not saying, okay, everybody's got to go on a retirement tour like Flair did, but I mean, like, to me, Dreamers was perfect because they used it as a storyline. He put his career on the line against Zack Ryder. He fought his heart out, but unfortunately, as is often the case in Tommy Dreamer's career, it didn't go his way. He came up short, the lady luck abandoned him, and, Ryder got the pin. Ryder got this huge win and kind of is now claiming the name Heart and Soul for himself, which was Tommy's name in WWE. He's the heart and soul of ECW, so it's like a nice little story that wrote Tommy off logically, and he still got that moment to, stand in the sun with his two kids.
Yeah.
And,
what about me?
One last thing, guys.
Hey, how are you
Tommy,
still doing here?
I came back for just a sec. Tommy reading Larry's book reminds me of a story Lance Storm told where apparently, love him or hate him, Tommy Dreamer is just a big wrestling mark. And he used to buy and read all the Wrestling Mark mags even while he was the booker of ECW. So it doesn't at all surprise me that he buys the wrestlers' books to read them. Just thought I'd share that.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with being a wrestling mark because if we weren't all wrestling marks, there would not be this show.
Exactly. And I'm tired of people using the word mark as like it's an insult. Oh, I'm not a mark. Yes, you are. Mark means fan. And if you're not a mark when you're watching it, what the hell are you watching it for?
To critique it. And to assign star rating.
And they made a good point during the thing. Nobody's calling up the coach of the Colts and the New Orleans Saints saying, I watched football my whole life. I know how things should be. Jesus Christ. You're a fan. You like it. And we have opinions on what should be.
Some fans do. Some football fans, the term armchair quarterback.
Well, and that's exactly what the phraseology is based off of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. Take it easy.
Okie dokie.
He is like the ghost that just pops up and randomly haunts us after he leaves.
Yeah, that was kind of random. I was like, I assumed he hung up, but it's always good to hear from James.
Yeah, I'm joking, obviously, for everyone. I'll say this. If not for James Walsh, I'd be twiddling my thumbs right now. So,
if not for James Walsh, I would probably be asleep right now.
All right, and I guess maybe this isn't the other big story, but to me it's the most interesting story going on in professional wrestling or in wrestling in general, and it is the huge mess that is now developing between Dragon Gate USA, ROH, and TNA.
What's going on?
Well, this all has to do with, over the weekend, Davey Richards, who is one of ROH's independent wrestler, and he's one of ROH's top guys. He's a former tag team champion.
Mm-hmm.
He has been working for Gabe Zabalski's new company, Dragon Gate USA, in a number of roles. He also works for another company that Zabalski is booking called Evolve. And he was kind of pushed as the face of Evolve going into the first show. This past week, Gabe tweeted, quote, as of right now, Davey Richards is off all future Dragon Gate and Evolve shows. And it's revealed that Davey has signed a new deal with ROH. And it's essentially, you're hearing a bunch of different stories. One story says Davey said, I'm not going to work for DGUSA anymore. Other people are saying Gabe flipped out because he thought Davey was going to leave ROH and then become like the face of these two companies. But Davey got pulled. A lot of this has to do with the fact that during WrestleMania weekend, ROH and Dragon Gate USA will go head-to-head and pretty much run shows at the same time. So
wow.
I think it's pretty frustrating. I think on the one hand, Gabe, is trying to build a company and he's, unable to be in a situation where he can deal with a lot of no-shows, and especially false advertising situation, because apparently if you buy the ticket for Dragon Gate USA, guess who's on the ticket? Davey Richards.
Ooh.
So yeah. And apparently things are also getting worse because in TNA this week informed Dragon Gate USA that they can no longer use the Young Bucks, a.k.a. Generation Me. And apparently Gabe's now pissed off about that and actually is threatening to sue TNA because his argument is that, quote, the Bucks agreed to work that show before they ever joined TNA. So then you just have a bunch of situations where everyone thinks they got screwed and you know, everyone's getting pissed off about it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I can understand Gabe's situation. I mean, you're trying to build a company and you're losing all your talent. That's not good. That's not good at all. But
well, some people have said that like, and to a certain extent, I think people have said that Gabe kind of grinds an axe. That actually ROH runs a show wherever WrestleMania is going to be in an effort to, well, basically make a lot of money off of all the wrestling fans that are in that city for WrestleMania. Like months before, it was announced almost the minute that they announced WrestleMania was going to be in Phoenix, Dragon Gate USA rushed a press release saying, we're going to be in Phoenix too. And then ROH followed suit. And apparently, Gabe was trying to convince Davey not to work the ROH dates that weekend. So, some people are saying it's kind of Gabe's fault, and the fact that he's actually apparently at least threatening to sue somebody. People are kind of saying it's kind of turning some of the wrestlers against Gabe because it's like some people feel he put Davey in an awkward position for a while, and Davey finally just said, look, enough of it, and went back to ROH for apparently a slightly larger raise.
Well, ROH is the bigger company, if you want to look at it that way, and he just went for the more money. You can't blame him for that. But that's kind of a messy situation.
And I would also, I don't want to act like I know Davey Richards' career staff for staff, but I'd be willing to bet that he gets, even if he's not paid more, he might probably makes more from ROH because ROH runs a number of shows every month. Dragon Gate USA and, well, Evolve's only won a single show. Dragon Gate USA only runs a show like every 3 months. So it's like, where do you think his real money's coming from?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, ROH, they make a lot of money off their DVDs and things like that. So
and TV tapings, so I mean, I don't really know what Davey's goals are to, in terms of, he's trying to position himself for a TNA run or a WWE run because a lot of people see him as now basically a lot of people see him as the guy that should fill Danielson's role of being like that also great technical wrestler, that guy everybody looks at as the best, the hardest hitter, the best striker, the guy that can tie everyone up in pretzels. And it appears though he's filling that role pretty well. So obviously he might want to further follow that path and eventually wind up in one of the bigger companies. So he might think ROH is the better option to go with because they're on HDNet. We've seen a number of ROH guys get signed in recent months. We've seen TNA just brought in the Young Bucks, as we said, and it's like at the end of the day, this business is about money. It's like as much as you may love it, eventually you've got to take that big risk and try to make money off of this thing. That's part of the reason why Danielson is now in FCW. Could he probably have had the better matches staying with ROH? I believe absolutely so. Could he probably have been the quote unquote better performer? No doubt, in my opinion, because I don't think WWE will use him right. But if he goes to WWE and he's successful, the guy is going to make how much money in the next couple of years?
Yeah, right, exactly. And, in wrestling, and we saw it with the wrestler, the wrestlers get screwed a lot of the times when it comes to making money. So sometimes you just got to be selfish.
Right. And I mean, and who knows, maybe this whole situation gets calmed down and, burned out. It's just like 5 months from now, Davey Richards is back in Dragon Gate USA as well. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Any other major news and notes to talk about this week?
Oh, well, I got some good news for all of you that hate the Impact Zone and want to burn it to the ground, as Patrick Kelly has expressed to me many times.
I don't want to burn it to the ground. I just want them to move around a little bit more.
Patrick, I have the emails. Don't deny it.
All right, whatever.
Post up my email box nightly But talking about these long revenge fantasies he has, taking out the Impact Zone, saying it will be the only thing that will force them to move.
Yeah, let's burn down the Impact Zone, and then they'll have to move. That's actually not a bad idea.
And now that I've creeped everybody out a little bit, no, Patrick doesn't email me that often, but TNA will be on the road for the Lockdown pay-per-view. We'll be heading to one of my favorite cities, St. Louis.
Yeah, and it's very good because the rumors were going around that they were going to hold Lockdown in the Impact Zone. I was like, no, don't do that. And nope, they're holding it in St. Louis, which was where they hold it. They held it in 2007, I believe, correct?
Right. So yeah, 2007. They've held it there in the past, and it's a great wrestling city. I don't want to go on a long shtick here, but city home of wrestling at the Chase, and was considered the home of the NWA for so long, and great stars like Harley Race have come out of there. So I mean, and it's a great city as a whole. I mean, you got the Cardinals, you got the Rams, my favorite football team. I know the Blues. I mean, great sports city. So I mean, it's like, why not go to a great city like St. Louis?
Right, exactly. And hopefully they have a big main event to sell the pay-per-view on. I mean, we'll see how Against All Odds goes. We'll have a champion and a number one contender for Lockdown. So hopefully, they've got a big main event to promote. And, of course, there'll be Lethal Lockdown, which now that the ring is four-sided again, maybe we can go back to that War Games format with 2 rings.
Yeah, hey, you know what? I've always wanted to see somebody revive War Games. I know, Lethal Lockdown is basically War Games weapons, but I'd like to see a quote-unquote real War Games,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that's a great gimmick match. I think it's my only problem with War Games is that with the realism, the heel always wins the coin toss that gives them the man advantage, or they always win the series of matches that determines it, or they always, whatever method it is that it takes to get the man advantage, the heels win. And it's just like,
I remember TNA's kind of a polar opposite the last couple of years where, as a matter of fact, the face team somehow wins the advantage, but there's always something that turns it over. Like, I remember there was one year, it was actually the year Jeff Jarrett came back for a little while after his wife passed away, where he came in and he interfered in the match, and then they announced, well, because Jarrett interfered in the match, that they had to hand it over to the Christian Coalition. And then I think it was last year, Daniels was announced as winning the final match in the series, but then they went to the tape, and it was revealed that both Daniels and Angle's shoulders were down, so it was supposed to be ruled a draw or something. So, I mean, it's like, as you said, I mean, there's always something. Somehow that heel always gets that advantage.
Yeah, it's just weird. And the way to get around that is to, obviously, why not just have both entrants come out at the same time?
Well, I mean,
I guess they would just beat each other up on the aisle or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that I mean, I do kind of like the story of the babyface has to survive. I mean, for those 2 or 3 minutes, why he has to wait for his partner to enter.
Well, I mean, for the format, it doesn't make it. It's not interesting to have the faces with the advantage. Nobody cares. It's like giving Superman a bazooka. It's like he's already invincible, and now you're giving him an advantage. That's great.
Yeah. We're such nerds. We talk G.I. Joe. We bring up Superman all the time.
Oh, we're nerds, man. I just watched Turtles Forever on YouTube. That was great. Which, by the way, if you are a Ninja Turtles fan, I highly recommend checking this movie out. It's kind of amazing.
Really?
Yeah, well, what it does is it combines the Ninja Turtles universe of the 1980s cartoon with the universe of the 2000s cartoon. And all the characters from both shows interact and they contrast each other. It's pretty amazing.
I'll have to check that out.
What'd you say?
I said I'll have to check that out.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I won't be like James that one time when you told him about the Muppets Bohemian Rhapsody thing, and he proceeded to watch it during the show and was laughing in the background.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, the Muppets have that effect on people. I love the Muppets, so.
I love the Muppets too, but it's like, we are in the middle of a show, James.
It's one of those interesting little stories from the show. I keep saying we need to do like a history of the interactive interview Wrestling Epicenter like DVD or something with interviews like about Chuck D was a crazy guy and things really went south and you know the trials and tribulations of Eric Clancy and things like that. It'd be pretty fun.
The trials and tribulations of Eric Clancy. You know, like you are really the only guest host. Well, I shouldn't say guest host. You're the only like sidekick James has ever had that truly has stuck around more than a couple of years. I mean, I've been here a while now, but I mean, like you're the Iron Man when it comes to James's cohorts.
I can tolerate James. It's just like you know, I mean, I don't know what happened with Daniel Edler. I really don't. That was before I came on. Chuck, I'll be honest. I got along with Chuck, but I only talked to him over the phone, and not very often, so I didn't really know him that well. But I always got along with him. I don't know what happened there, and then with Eric, I get along great with Eric, obviously. But James and Eric, man, they just always butt heads, especially over some of James' political comments, shall we say.
Well, let's just say this, and if Eric's listening, he'll probably kill me for saying this. They are the same person. With Eric likes to think that he's not like James, but he is a lot like James in many, many ways, and how passionate he is about his beliefs. And when he's for something, he's all over it. But when he turns to get something, like, oh my God. I mean, look, again, Eric, I love you if you're listening to this, but man, you are the Democratic version of James Walsh.
That's really, their political beliefs are really one of the only things that really separates them, because they are pretty, if you look at their interests and the things that they're into and even their beliefs on wrestling, they're pretty, you know, for the most part, they're pretty in sync with each other. I mean, I know James is more the 80s and Eric like the Attitude Era more. For the most part, they would agree with each other on like the direction of wrestling and stuff, but you throw politics into the mix, man, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time Eric called me and he was talking about the Futurama episode where Bender becomes a wrestler.
Uh-huh.
And in that Bender fights like really, you know, typical quote unquote 80s characters. And Eric let it go. He said something to Eric said, I was talking to James about that. Yeah, that was what the 80s were all about. But James was like, yeah, but I love the 80s. I'm like the way James likes to kind of trash the 90s sometimes, or trash certain aspects of that era, it's very similar to the way Eric likes to trash the certain aspects of the 80s.
Well, I think there are positive and negatives about both sides, and I think we're running out of time here, but we can go a few minutes over. Yeah, we actually just finished, so you know, we can finish a few points and keep going. I feel like with the 80s, you had an era where wrestling was introduced to the mainstream and just offered larger-than-life characters. But I'm not going to deny it. There were those cheesy elements. For anybody who saw the Tuesday Night Titans shows, those were pretty stupid. But, you know, but the 80s to me offered these larger-than-life characters in big-time feuds and big-time situations, and I just loved that time period a lot. The Attitude Era was the same thing. You had these great larger-than-life characters in great feuds and storylines, but on the side you did have some stupid shit, namely Mae Young giving birth to a hand.
Mark Henry being tied up by Jacqueline and Perry. Mark Henry making out with a man dressed as a woman.
He didn't just make out, he got a friggin' blowjob on live TV.
Oh.
Which is like, ew. I mean, yeah, I mean, both periods had their positives and negatives. I just feel that the positives far outweighed the negatives in both cases. The 80s especially, 90s especially. I mean, those were the two best eras in wrestling.
Right. I mean, you just, like you said, there's positives and negatives, and the honest to God truth is that, you know, if we could only, you know, learn the lessons from those eras for this generation, man, we'd be set.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things you bring from the 80s that would really help wrestling today. It's the same way with the 90s. I mean, there was a lot of things. The idea for doing a show that is family-oriented is fine. And the idea of doing a show that is meant to be adult-oriented or more intelligent and not just being the same old stereotypical characters is also fine. I mean, I think it is possible to do something very similar to, with Austin, where he was a shade of gray that was a good guy, but he did a lot of bad things technically. You could combine that and still find a way to do it family friendly. Obviously, you couldn't do it with Steve Austin, but I think
honestly, you know who the '80s had that kind of had that? Roddy Piper and Randy Savage too. I mean, they were basically the same character, either heel or face. They were essentially the same character.
Yeah, I think one of my I was watching YouTube and they were showing the attack that Randy Savage did on Ricky Steamboat when he drove the bell into his throat. And they were doing an interview with Bruno Sammartino where Bruno was trying to figure out what had happened to Ricky or trying to get an update. And Savage comes up to Steamboat to Bruno, and he's just like, "Oh, please tell me he's okay. Oh, did you see the attack? Oh," mocking Steamboat, and Bruno loses it. Because they were going to put Bruno back in the ring to fight Savage during that period. But the only thing that kind of blows this is that Bruno goes, "You're happy about this, you piece of slime." It's just kind of like, okay, that kind of blows it, This guy's so pissed off about what happened to his friend, yet he still watches his language.
Well, Bruno, that's just the way he is. I mean, Bruno, coming out of that time period, I don't recall ever hearing Bruno cuss or anything.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying Bruno needed to cuss, but I'm saying you probably could have just cut it off, before the "you piece of slime" thing. You could have just had Bruno attack him without saying anything, because it's just like I'm saying, there were some cheesy elements to it, and today I don't think it would work. Like a guy making sure to say, instead of saying, "I'm going to kick your asses," and if he just went, I'm going to beat your butt, wouldn't work.
Oh, yeah,
but,
yeah.
But, I mean, like I said, there is a way to do family-oriented shows, but not have them insult, the adult viewer. That's what a lot of people say ECW's Great Charm was originally, where it's like you had the kids that had grown up as Hulkamaniacs, but that wasn't appealing to them anymore. The say your vitamins, take your, say your vitamins, what the hell am I on? But the say your prayers, take your vitamin stuff wasn't working anymore. They found ways to manipulate and make, working class heroes that work better.
Right, well, and we compare wrestling to Star Wars all the time, and it's so easy to do because I think Star Wars is probably the best story ever put on cinema, and you can just tie it into anything. But you look at Star Wars, the original trilogy, all three films are PG. This is a story that still includes violence, murder, torture, genocide. Alderaan was destroyed. This is some pretty intense themes and stories here, but it's told in a way that kids can enjoy it, families can enjoy it. It's not insulting to parents. It's just a very entertaining story all around.
Exactly. So I mean, you can do that. You can just there's a way to do it, and you know what? I think it is right to go after kids, because if you can get if you can hook kids, we all grew up being wrestling fans and we're watching it for life. But it's like there has to be a way to also keep those adults watching once they grow up.
Well, kids are going to watch it anyway, and I think Eric's made this point before. Kids will watch it anyway because they're just drawn to it, and that's what it was with me. I was just naturally drawn to it. But you don't want to, you want to keep us around for a long time, like Disney does. I'll throw Disney out there. Disney still is appealing in ways, like Pixar, the movies they do. I still watch Toy Story, and I still enjoy it. It's just as good now as it was back when I was 10. I can't say that about WWE now.
All right, well, I mean, and we'll just use Disney as an example. They realized that there was a small problem with their product, and the fact that a lot of, their action figures or licenses appealed to girls more than it did to boys, like the Disney princesses and everything. That's part of the reason why they acquired Marvel. So now they can do, Wolverine costumes and Wolverine action figures and, make a bunch of money off the kids that love Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which anybody asking, I did not have a problem with Disney buying Marvel. I don't think that's going to affect anything outside of Disney just putting their name on anything Marvel related. I don't think it'll affect anything. So Disney's just going to get a big piece of that pie.
Right. Well, for so many people that are like, oh my God, they're going to start doing Spider-Man movies out of Disney Studios. Disney owns more than just the Disney Animation Studios. So if they want to do a PG-13 movie or an R-rated movie, they can do it to one of their other branches. They just don't have. They just won't have to do the quote unquote Disney studio. I mean, they own plenty of other companies that can do that stuff for them.
I could be wrong, but I believe they own Miramax, who released a lot of the Kevin Smith movies.
Right. So I mean, it's like they don't think, oh my God, we're never going to see another Punisher movie, or I know some people.
I don't know. After the last one, I don't know if I want to see another Punisher movie.
Well, a Deadpool movie.
Deadpool. Okay, yeah, Deadpool would be cool.
Plus, they get rid of Ryan Reynolds.
What'd you say?
What's the actor's name? Ryan Reynolds. He was Deadpool and
yeah, in the Wolverine movie, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I just can't buy him as Deadpool. It's like he's too much of a pretty boy from Dawson's Creek style stuff. Like, for the love of God, if you're going to do an assassin like Deadpool, get someone who actually you can buy as a homicidal maniac to craft jokes.
I will say this, and the Wolverine movie had its flaws, but I didn't hate it. A lot of people just despise that movie. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I will give them this though; they did make Deadpool look pretty cool at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
we're long overtime, and we're not even talking about wrestling no more. But any final points you want to make, Nick, before we go?
Well, for anyone that's listening to this, I'll just say, as I always do, watch TNA Impact and support the cause, because look, if they go away, we're all in trouble. And I guess I'll plug my Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. You can follow me at twitter.com/GriffinNoel.
Oh,
get on there to find out what I'm up to.
I'm on Twitter as well. I will have to follow you.
Yeah, that's just private message me your name, so that way I can add you or everything. That way we can follow each other and know what's going on in our crazy little lives.
Yay!
Yeah, like Sheila will not leave me alone, which is my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like they get rid of you, and then, man, when they miss you, they don't leave you alone.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. This Valentine's Day will be the best for me because I can watch the Daytona 500 and against all odds in peace, not have to worry about taking anybody to dinner.
Yeah, I'm not going to have that same luxury, unfortunately, but I don't know. I'll probably be able to watch against all odds, but I won't have the day to myself, which is fine. And the funny thing is, my girlfriend's birthday is the day before Valentine's Day, so I have to, I have to be Mr. Perfect for the whole weekend.
Well, let me give you some advice, Patrick. Never take her out for something really great and then think you can skip the next night.
Yeah, oh, no, never.
That is something I learned with my very first girlfriend, who also became my very first ex-girlfriend that weekend. See, her birthday fell on our anniversary. So I thought, I could just take her out for her birthday and not have to worry about it. She was
pissed, right? Hello? Nick? Nick? Okay, I think we lost Nick. Well, all right, I'm Patrick Kelly. Good night, everybody. See you all next week.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, for Rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive
interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
You maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, guys. We had a lovely conversation. First lady. Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh, my God. You win. Wow. Interactive.
Whoa. I just got some listen. I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost pissed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. I see my language. You're going to go to the shop. I see them now. We're into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. Woo. What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Champion. Arrogant.
You just make me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So lonely without you.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive. Interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive. Interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire.
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling
Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business and ballet. We are huge. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure you tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer. Knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.